Hello friends, welcome back to another year of ranking all of my Natasha Denona palettes. This is my third year doing this video theme, so if you want to see 2023 and 2022, I will link those below so you can kind of see how things have changed. However, this year I am ranking them by usage. Before, I used to just rank them by what I loved the most. But I think it's very interesting to see where my use lies, because some of these I would not rank this way, but I use them a lot more than others I felt would be at the top. So I think it's very interesting. I'm going to put the usage in the corner so you can see that as well. And I hope you find it interesting too. There are a couple that I no longer have in my collection. They've been decluttered this year. This is based off my current 2024 collection. So it's like not based off of ones I've tried in the past. This is just what I've had this year. That sounds as fun to you as it does to me. Be sure to stay tuned. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. And if you could, take just a moment, go down and hit that like button now, just so that you don't forget at the end of the video. I would appreciate it so much. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump on in. Okay, first and foremost, coming in at dead last, we're going to rank these least used to most used. So dead last is the Natasha Denona Glam palette, and I will put a photo of the palette up there because that is one that I did declutter earlier this year. It was actually a part of my chopping block series, and after I used it once, I was like, I don't want it. I don't want to use it anymore, so I decluttered it. That being said, I only used this palette once in 2024. I know some people love this palette, but it was just not working for me. A lot of the shimmers were a very similar tone and shade on my eyes. And there was really only like 2 or 3 special formulas I really loved. I actually depotted my favorite shimmer shade out of the palette into my I Need A Nude palette. So I still have that one. But everything else, I was like, it's gotta go. The tones just weren't right for my skin tone. And that happens sometimes. So I thought the quality was there. It just was not hitting the marks for me when it came to the tones of the shadows and the finishes, stuff like that. So I decluttered it. Used it once and then bye-bye. Coming in at number 2. Actually, I'm not going to say it like that because I feel like that will be confusing. Let me number these really quick so that I can make more sense of this. 1 second. Okay, there we go. I have them numbered, so I feel like it's going to make a little bit more sense. The one we just did was ranked number 15, the Glam palette. The number 14 spot goes to the Sunset palette. This is one that I also decluttered in my most recent declutter eyeshadow palette declutter video. This is a beautiful palette. It survived every declutter for the longest time because I never used it, so I was always on the fence. But then every time I used it, I was like, God, I love this look. I love this look. I know the shimmer formulas were a little bit different than what we're used to seeing now in her middies, but they were still absolutely stunning. The color story was stunning. I literally had no complaints. I just literally never used it, ever. And I don't know why. I cannot put my finger on it. But I basically just was like, you know what? I'm tired of this just rotting in my collection. And so I decluttered it. I took it to my Thanksgiving and a family member took it. They love it. They use it all the time. And that just made me so happy. I was like, and this is why I don't hold on to things, because now, even though I already spent money on that, someone else is at least using it. Whereas like I was not. But I think it's a beautiful palette. The color story was great. I guess just looking at it, something about it deterred me, and I don't know what that is. I used that palette 4 times this year, so that puts it in spot number 14. Coming in at number 13 is the Gold palette. I used this only 4 times this year. Absolutely fucking criminal. Absolutely criminal. I saw that and I was like, no way. That can't be right. That cannot be right. But it is. It is right. This is now discontinued. She brought it back for a little bit and I almost replaced it, but I didn't because, as you can see, I don't use it as much as I should, and I don't know why. I usually do the same looks when I use this. I will say I stick to this column and to this shimmer. This shimmer is just sickening. Oh God, that is so pretty. This is definitely one next year I want to get a lot more use out of and will bring to the forefront because it is stunning and it's getting a little bit older, so I want to make sure that I do get that use out of it. But the tones in here are just beautiful. Even though this is like pretty loud, it's her cream to powder formula, so it's really easy to work with, holds its pigment, doesn't give you fallout. It's a really beautiful shade. And yeah, just the toppers in here, there's something so special about the topper formula in this palette in particular. I don't think that we've seen it again. From all the ones that I've tried, I have not seen that formula, and it is just freaking incredible. I'm so happy to have it, so I want to give it some more use this year, but unfortunately it came in at spot number 13, which, like I said, this is one that I would rank higher normally, but now I'm doing it by usage and I'm like, oh my God, it's at the bottom. Okay, spot number 12 is another one that has been actually returned. It was the I Need a Warm palette, which launched this year, and I was so freaking excited about this palette. I truly thought it was going to be the end all be all, my holy grail. I was going to be using the shit out of it, and honestly, this one just did not meet my standards quality-wise, which is something that I've experienced from Natasha here and there, where the quality of her formula is not there. This is only the second time I've experienced it, but it was very disappointing. The mattes were patchy, and then the new hybrid, it's like a cream to powder, but not her traditional cream to powder. It's some new formula. It sucked. And then her shimmers, they were creasing so badly on me. The new shimmer that was like supposed to be hoo-ha and woo-wah, it was, but it was a creasy motherfucker about halfway through the day. So, and it wasn't just like little creases, it was like big, thick balls of crease. It was horrendous. So I returned that palette because for me, the quality was not there. Yeah, so that one came in at number 12 and it's no longer in my collection. Number 11 is the Pastel palette. I also used this 5 times this year, which is not a lot, but also when you see the color story, you're probably like, that makes sense, Megan. When do you wear these colors? I don't. I don't. But oh my God, it is so freaking pretty. I want to be someone who wears these colors, but I have to make peace with who I am and not who I want to be. And this is who I want to be, not who I am. So yeah, this one I only used 5 times this year. I really enjoyed this as like a colorful inner corner moment. I don't do full looks with it because I just don't think that looks flattering on me personally. So I was not surprised to see this come in at number 11. I actually thought it would have came in lower, but yeah, number 11, the Pastel. Number 10, this was kind of a surprise to me, is the Glam face palette in the shade Deep. I used this 5 times this year, and I kind of had to be really mindful here at the end of the year to even hit that 5 mark. I don't know why. I love this color story. I think it is absolutely stunning. This gives the most gorgeous, rich, chocolatey eye look that is just so flattering on me. But I guess I just have to really be in the mood for those grungy, smoky chocolate tones. If I'm being honest, some mornings I'm just too lazy to do all of that effort. But it is absolutely stunning. The shimmers in these face palettes are also incredibly gorgeous. They're another shimmer formula that I really love that we don't really see anymore. And I love, love, love this blush tone here. Absolutely gorgeous. This is another one that I would really like to get more use out of next year. Like I said, I only used it 5 times. It came in the 10th spot. I would love to see it work its way up the list a little. Number 9 is the Zeno palette. I used this 6 times this year. And this one is currently in my chopping block series. This I know was really like polarizing. A lot of people didn't like it, but I loved it. I really don't use like this quad over here. This I've used and I like it, but I don't organically reach for it. So I mostly use this half over here. And I have loved the looks I've created with this, especially this row. Like this red shade is just so beautiful. And then I pair it with this one right here, and that look every time is just absolutely freaking gorgeous. It is freaking gorgeous. It's one I wish I would have used more this year, but I didn't. Like I said, I, only used this one 6 times, and it's just one of those color stories that when you look at it is a little hard. So what I did is I took like a week, I think it was in 2022, and I really just played with it and I rearranged mine into color categories that made sense for the looks, and that helped me a lot. So if you have this one and you're struggling with what looks to do, I will link that video below just in case you're curious. But yes, the Zeno palette, spot number 9. Okay, number 8 is the I Need A Nude palette. And this one I also used 6 times, which is kind of crazy. You'd think this is something I would use more, but I don't. I think I just had a lot of other stuff and it kind of got lost in the sauce. And until I was really going through here at the end of the year, I was like, wow, I have not used this and it is absolutely stunning. Nothing wrong with it. I just did a look with it earlier this week and I was like, wow, this is fucking beautiful. Why don't I use it? We don't know. The one shade that did come over from my Glam palette is this one down here, which my palette is completely rearranged also. But this one is the one that came from the Glam palette that I really, really liked and I wanted to hold on to. But yeah, this is another one that I think I just want to get more familiar with next year. I've had it for like, over a year now. So I really need to get familiar with it since I'm going to be keeping it. And that's really what I want to focus on next year, is like getting really familiar and in touch with all of these palettes. Some of them I know well, some of them I don't know that well. But I can say with this one, the matte formulations are beautiful. The shimmers are beautiful. I rearranged mine to kind of go with the tones. These are more pinky tones. These are more cool neutral tones because I feel like they can look a little similar in the pan, but then when you get them on the eye, they're very clearly different. So I needed to rearrange it that way so I wasn't having to do so much guesswork. But if you're someone who enjoys like more neutral to cool tone looks, I definitely think that you would love this one. And yeah, number 8. Number 7 is the Natasha Denona Triochrome palette. This is absolutely stunning. I only used this 7 times this year, and I think I know why. It's because last time I used it, this shade here did not perform well. And I don't know if it was just having a bad day or what's going on with it, but then it kind of just put me off of it. So I was like, oh, like that's one of the 2 deepening shades in the palette. Like, so in the new year, I need to thoroughly test this to make sure that performance-wise, it's still performing well. It is not an old palette, which is what made me so pissed that it even was like struggling. Because it is like very new to my collection, theoretically speaking. It's like a 1.5 years old, that's it. So I really want to make that a priority. I probably should have done it here at the end of the year, but honestly, I was just running out of time. Like, there's only so much time to start trying stuff and thoroughly testing it. So this will be one that I do next year. I hope that everything's fine with it because this one is no longer available, but like it was just a very different color story, but also so freaking beautiful. I've created some gorgeous matte looks with this, some gorgeous shimmer looks. I just think this color story is something different, but also so well done that you can stick within a comfort zone. And I know these multi-chromes like don't compare to, something like an indie brand would do, but I think they're very beautiful, very good for mainstream. And yeah, I really like this palette. So came in at number 7. Number 6, another one that is absolutely criminal. The My Dream palette from Natasha. Like, this is one that I would rank a lot higher, but based on use, it came in at number 6, and I only used this one 7 times this year. Terrible. Terrible. Jail. Straight to jail. Look at this. This is one of my favorite. Oh! Okay. Nobody panic. It's okay. Whoo. It's okay. Nothing broke. It was the cream to powder shade. So honestly, the best shade for that to happen too, because those are sturdy motherfuckers. God, that scared me. Sorry. I don't know why it popped out. But this is like one of the most beautiful color stories, in my opinion, Natasha has ever done. It has like the most, other than Biba, it has like the most range in terms of what kind of looks you can get with it. You can get a very like subtle, light, neutral to warm look. You can get a deep, grungy purple look. There's just so much you can do with it. You have these like stunning toppers in here. You have a multi-chrome in here, which is absolutely gorgeous. You have her traditional cream to powder formula. The shade Edgy is like my favorite. I love that. Absolutely gorgeous. It offers so much. And like I said, I still feel like this is one of my favorite color stories she's ever done. So next year, I need to really show this the love that it deserves, because every time I do a look with this, I am so in love with it. I really just think I need to play around with it and get a little bit more comfortable on experimenting with color stories. But this is one that I would still very highly recommend. And if we were doing like ranking on my preference, this would very easily be like top 3 from Natasha. Absolutely love this one. Okay, number 5 is the Retro palette. I used this one 8 times last year. Not a ton, but more than a lot of the others. I really personally enjoy this during like February. That's when I reach for it the most. But I always literally do the same look with it. Like, I'm always using like these 3 to 4 shades and then those 2 shimmers, and that's literally it. I think if you're someone who likes mauves and pinks, you will absolutely adore this palette. There's a lot of great formulas in here. The toppers are beautiful, the cream to powders, the mattes. This does have more of those traditional shimmers that I don't love in here, hence why I never reach for them. They're like all the ones in this row right here. They're just like a little lackluster for my preference. I want more. What? My dogs have to go out. Okay, we're back. Yeah, don't really have anything else to say about that. This was number 5. Definitely would not have ranked it number 5 on my own, but that's where it landed with the use of 8. Number 4. Number 4. Another one that I feel like the usage on this was a little bit criminal. It is my Natasha Denona Star Palette. This was in my top 3, I believe, last year. I used this so much in 2023, but it just didn't translate over here in 2024. I don't know why. This is what it looks like. Absolutely gorgeous. I picked this up when she relaunched it this last time in 2023 at the end of the year. So this is a fresh one. I decluttered my other one because it was just so clearly expired. And that's why I'm so annoyed. I'm like, I repurchased it and then I did not even use it that much this year. Like, what the friggin' clown. But anyways, I only used this 9 times this year. And this is another one I would like to see so much more use out of next year, because I like this. I like the tones. I'm also being mindful too that like we are getting into winter, and that's when I gravitate toward more tones like these and then like those warmer tones. So I think the usage will kick up for this hopefully next year. But yes, this came in at number 4. I also wanted to mention by having this like new, I have loved the formulas much more. It was so clear that my other one was expired because these mattes are so much better, and the shimmers are also so much better in this formula. So I do think, like, it just goes to show how, like, eyeshadow does expire. It doesn't perform the same after so long, because the difference between performance between this new one and my old one was truly night and day. All right, top 3, here we go. If you're still here, put in the comments what you think my top 3 are in order. I will give you a second to do so because I'm so curious. I think I would have ranked it similarly, very similarly, but not quite the same. My number 1 was dethroned in usage. But anyways, that's your only hint. Leave it down below what you think my top 3 are, and we'll just get into it. And this is where the usage really jumps. So number 3 came in as my bronze palette. I used this 30 times this year, and you can tell she looks much more loved than my other Natasha palettes. One of these pans was pre-existing to this year, but all of the other pans are new to it. And as you can see, I have some really great dips going in some other shades. This is in a project with my friend Steph, which is why I reached for it so much this year. And even then, I didn't feel like I reached for it as much as I did in 2023. But that is why this one got so much use, which is fine. I love this palette, which is so interesting because when I first had this palette, I returned it because I paid full price for it, and it's so monochromatic. And so I had returned it, and I feel the same about the monochromaticness or monochromaticity. I don't know. I'm not, you know. And I then was decluttered it by a friend, and I've loved it so much more since, because then I can justify, like, I predominantly do one look with this palette. And doing this project with my friend Steph has kind of pushed me to do other color combos and reach for other shades, which has been good because I've fallen in love with a lot of the other shades that I wasn't really using before. So I do love that about the project. But yeah, I absolutely love this one, and I would have ranked this number 3 in my collection. Number 2, this is a travesty. I'm still, like, pissed about it. But number 2 is my Biba palette. This has been my number 1 for like 2 years in a row, and I would have picked her as number 1. I would have, but she just didn't make it usage-wise. I used this palette 34 times this year, which put it in the 2nd spot seat. And this is what mine looks like. I have actually hit quite a few new pans in this palette this year. This is a new pan. This is a new pan. I think these 2 are new pans. So I've hit, I think, 4 new pans in this year. I've definitely used it a lot, just not enough to hit that number 1 spot, gosh darn. But I love this palette. It's one that I'm actually thinking about repurchasing in 2025, because while this palette is still good, it is like my oldest palette. This year it'll turn 4, and that's usually just when we see some formulas really starting to go off around that 4 or 5 year mark. And I absolutely just adore this. So I think I will just kind of keep an eye out for potentially a good sale, and I will pick up my replacement because I want to make sure that I do have a replacement when it does eventually go off. But I've talked about this palette so much, you guys are probably freaking over it. But I just think that this offers so much range in terms of tones, and you get a lot of really beautiful cream to powder formulas in here. I think that the shimmers are definitely some of the most, like, leaving a little bit more to be desired in comparison with her newer formulas, but they are still so pretty. They look great on the eye. I have literally no complaints. So yeah, this one is a tried and true for me. It just is a workhorse. I travel with it. This is like the best black literally ever. I love it so much. It is incredible. It's the cream to powder, so it holds like a really deep opaqueness, but it smudges out beautifully as well. And just, God, it's so easy to work with. It's so easy to work with. I love it as a liner. But yeah, so number 2, which can only leave one for the number 1 spot. And I'm sure you guys can probably guess it at this point because this is a product that's been featured on my channel quite a bit. And it is the Natasha Denona Glam Face Palette in the shade Light. I love this. I love it. It is another one that is an absolute workhorse. I think that if it had a bronzer in it, it would be easily like the best thing in my collection, because these tones in the shadows are just like perfect for my complexion, for a either like really light glam look or a very like deep glam look. Like I can achieve both out of it with the color selection we have here. Also, the shimmer formulas in this are just, they are that like wet, shimmery, super sparkly formula. They are absolutely gorgeous. And then also like they come with this beautiful blush that I love, and the same with the highlighter. And the highlighter is even great on the eye. I've used it on the inner corner and the brow bone. Of course, I just counted usage on this when I was using the shadows, not if I was to go in with the blush and that's it. But this taking the number 1 spot, I used it 45 times this year, which is pretty significant if you think about all of the eyeshadow that I do have in my collection and have had this year. When I did my eyeshadow palette declutter video, I will link that below. I went through every single palette in my collection and I told you guys the usage of that palette. And then at the end, I also included a slide of every palette I've decluttered this year and the usage. And I really just think that gives a more full picture of why some of these palettes were only used like 4 or 5 times. So I definitely recommend you check out that video if you have not yet. But I think that this makes sense usage-wise, that this was my number 1 palette. If I was ranking it by what I feel like I love most, I think this would have been number 2. But I'm just always so pleased with the ease I am able to achieve a look with this. I just think it is perfection. Like, can you get the most variety out of 5 shades? No, but you can get a variety out of these 5 shades. So yeah, I absolutely love this. I'm fine with it being my number 1, even though Biba just has a certain place in my heart, and that's why she's always number 1. But alas, yeah, I'll make it up to her next year. But anyways, that is all. Those are my 15 Natasha Denona palettes that I had in my collection this year. And that is how they would be ranked based on their usage in 2024. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up before you go. It really does help my channel. Also, in the comments, let me know what was your most used palette this year, whether it's Natasha Denona or another brand. I'm genuinely curious. I want to know. And yeah, I hope you guys all have an incredible day wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!